Hello everyone, we welcome you all to this week Tech Tuesday webinar on what's new in Informatica CDGC, CDMP, CDAM and CDQ in February and April 2025 release. Today's speakers are Ambrish, Kate, Harold and Ricardo from R&D team. Before we start the session, let's go through some of the housekeeping tips. The webinar is scheduled for 1 hour that includes 15 minutes Q&A. You can post your queries in Q&A box which will be answered at the end of the presentation. All participants will be muted during the presentation. The session will be recorded and it will be available on a success portal where you can also download the slide deck. Please feel free to submit your suggestion or feedback for the session in the post-webinar survey. The Success Portal is a micro-learning platform that offers free, unlimited learning to all the registered users. This feature-rich platform helps you learn and adopt to Informatica products better. The following are few important links that you can go over later. This will help you in your product adoption journey with Informatica. Over to you, Ambrish. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshita. So let's kick it off with data governance and catalog enhancements. It's a big release for data governance and catalog. There's a number of significant capabilities coming out. Let's start with those at a high level. So the first one is we have a new workflow designer. This is going to replace the cloud app integration workflow engine that we were using. And we are moving on to a new engine and a new designer as part of this release. We are also bringing in reference 360 integration. So if you are using reference 360 and want the reference data to be associated and seen in data governance and catalog, this will allow you to do that. We are also starting and embarking upon a journey around generative AI with the glossary description as well as dataset data element description generation as an option. We have also made a number of improvements to glossary association algorithms and also discovery improvement side of things. On the catalogs, on the lineage side, we basically are adding a higher level view for you so that you can see a system level or a catalog source level lineage. On the API side, we are adding one new API for audit history to be exported or a report that can be generated using the APIs. We are also adding a number of usability improvements. And I'll talk about some of those, but there's more than what I can cover in the short time. We also have some PAM improvements on the discovery front, and then profiling will be covered by Ricardo a bit later on. And then a number of new scanners have been added to the release and existing scanners have also been enhanced. So let's get into the details. So as I said, we are bringing in a new workflow engine as part of this release that is going to replace the cloud app integration engine that we have been using. It also means we have a new workflow canvas or a designer that is going to be embedded within MCC. It's going to be simpler. It's going to be easy for the end users or the business users to create workflows. And it will also help you see the progression of the workflow itself in data governance and catalog, since we can now embed this canvas as part of the ticket itself. So again, the benefits of this is it becomes easy for you to create and manage workflows. It gives you better user experience. And it also allows us to build a lot of new capabilities that we target to build going forward. So that said, this is going to be embedded, the new designer, the canvas is going to be part of the metadata command center. You will be able to create multiple workflows, custom workflows. We will have a few out of the box, similar to what we had with cloud app integration. So you will be able to get those, plus you'll be able to create your own. Unlike cloud app integration, you will be able to design your swim lanes here. So you have swim lanes and you can assign tasks to it. This is very similar to Axon workflows if you have used that in the past. Now, each of this canvas is going to be drag and drop, right? So you can drag and drop and create your workflows using that. It will also have more context in terms of how the information is flowing, what details you want to provide, and so on. As well as it will also tell you real-time validation so that if there are any mistakes made or something needs to be corrected, you can go ahead and do that as well. Now, there is going to be a repository where you can basically see your existing workflows. And that will be available from within MCC. Just like what we have today, this workflows will be used as part of the events that you configure so that you can now say, for what event type, what workflows I want to use. The workflows themselves will go through life cycle. So when you create it, it will be in the draft status. It can go to published. And then you can also mark it as obsolete so that you don't trigger it going forward and then eventually maybe delete it. Okay, and then you will be able to see all the dependencies from the events to the workflow, so you can see if a workflow is being used as part of the events or vice versa, right? So now if somebody is trying to make a change or delete, they know where the usage is, and they can either reach out to somebody or avoid making the changes at least for now or create a new workflow. We will also be enhancing our task inbox. As you can see, here's a screenshot of what it may look like. The goal is to continue to extend this in the future, but you're going to have some revamp of the look and feel around the task inbox. And as I said earlier, we will also have a visual representation of the workflow progress within the CDGC ticket. So as a user, I will be able to see what tasks have been completed and what is still to be done and what is the current pending task and so on, right? So again, from usability, this really goes a long way. Now, one of the things that there was a separate Tech Tuesday session that happened in March, where we touched upon what does it mean for the existing workflows that are CI based. So again, you can go through the whole recording. It's an hour-long recording with a lot of Q&A in there. But at a very high level, we will be introducing this new engine in April. Until July release, which is our next major release, you will have an overlap where if you have configured existing events with CI workflows, you will be able to continue to use that. And in the meantime, for the 3 months time, you will have to create new workflows on this new canvas. And by the end of July, you will have to kind of migrate it. After July, we will not be triggering the cloud app integration workflow. So by that time, you should have moved to the new design. Right. So again, there's a Tech Tuesday on it separately that was done about a month back. Please do check it out for if you're interested in more details then. Now, going to the reference 360. So again, this is again another significant capability. As part of this, you will be able to ingest all the reference 360 metadata. So we will have a Ref 360 scanner available. And then you will be able to link your reference data or reference code list to glossaries as well as data elements within CDGC. And of course, the idea is a lot of users wants to see what the possible values could be from a glossary, from a data element perspective. So it gives them a lot more context. Now, again, you can link this to a glossary or a data element. For a glossary, of course, you will have a reference data tab shown on a business terms metric, as well as on the data element side of things, where you can see the code values, your name, the code description, and so on. Same thing on the data element side of things. We will also be showing information at the data set level, which is technical data set. So if you have multiple data elements associated to a reference code list, you will be able to see all of them at the data set level as well. Now, the idea is to show only the sample values within CDGC, right? So we will have the first 50 sample values for the code list to be seen with a link to a reference 360 for the user to be able to go in and look at the complete list of values, right? But the idea is to give them an idea of what are the possible values with the first 50 values, and then the complete list with the URL in there. Now, there are some prerequisites to this. You will be required to scan reference 360 before you can basically associate code list to the glossary or data element. So only if you can scan this, you can bring it in, and you can only bring the reference data from Ref 360, and the tab will only appear if you have scanned the reference 360. There's also some nuance depending on whether your CDGC and reference 360 are on the same org versus different orgs. So if they are on the same orgs, no issues. You will have a high link from the sample values, which will take you to Ref 360, and you will be able to see the complete list there. But in case both of them are on different orgs, in that case, since it requires you to re-log in onto the reference 360 site, we will give you a URL that you can copy, and then you can go ahead and log on to the separate instance as required. Now let's talk about the Claire generated descriptions. So again, this is the journey, the beginning of the journey for generative AI and leveraging Claire to generate metadata for you. We are starting off with a glossary generation as well as data set, data element, description generation. And of course, the idea is to really drive productivity. Now, for now, this is going to be on demand. with a future goal of being able to do this in bulk. Now, from a glossary description generation perspective, if the user goes on and starts to define a new glossary, you will basically have an option available on the description, as you can see on the screenshot, that will allow you to generate description based on the name provided by the user. Name, of course, is required to be provided by the user. And based on that, you can basically ask system to generate either a long version or a short version of it. And then you will also have an option to select your industry. And so the descriptions can be catered to a specific industry as well. Now, by default, we will be picking up the industry from the provision tenant. So if that is correctly provisioned, you will basically will be using that as a default value. But of course, you can change it if desired. And then user can also generate multiple iterations of the description as well, right? So you don't need to limit it to just one, and then you can see 2-3 different iterations and say which one you like better. Similarly, we will also have an option to generate name and description. This is business name and description for both technical data sets as well as data elements as well. So in case of a glossary, it is only description. In case of technical assets like data sets and data elements, you will be able to generate both business name and description. And from a data set perspective, you will be able to generate, of course, items in bulk. So you will be able to generate multiple names and descriptions for the data elements associated through the contains tab on the table itself. Now let's talk about some of the glossary association and the discovery improvements. So the first thing we have introduced as part of the releases or around the glossary association improvement is an additional control. Until now, you had an auto acceptance threshold. So based on that, whether it gets auto accepted or recommended. Now, recommended 80% was the low limit on the recommendation. And so if your auto acceptance was 95, anything between 80 and 95 will be in the recommended, and the 95 plus will be auto accepted. Now you will be able to control at what level you want the recommendations, right? So if I said 95 as auto accepted, 90 as recommendation, in that case, anything lower than 90, you will basically not get recommendation at all. 90 to 95 will be recommendation as an example, and 95 plus will be auto acceptance, right? Now, what this allows you to do is you can basically start with stricter thresholds and then extend if as you see fit, right, based on the accuracy and so on. But the idea is to reduce the false positives coming from something that has an 80% match, for example, right? And so it also reduces the overall curation and activity required by the users themselves. We are also adding an option for you as part of the catalog source config to not allow overriding of the names and descriptions. So if a new glossary association comes in, it could override. Now you have a control of whether you want to override it or whether you want to keep what was already there as an existing thing. One of the asks from a few customers has been, can we remove the rejected glossary associations as well as classification? Today, it stays in the rejected state, but can we just remove it altogether? Right? And so we have that option available through UI with the release. Now, of course, one thing to keep in mind is if you do reject it or if you do remove it, it will appear as part of the recommendation when you next time rescan and run the glossary association, right? So in some use cases, customers have wanted that re-recommendation to come in, but just keep that in mind if you completely remove it. We are also adding an option for you to export the lookup tables. So the idea is if you want to make changes to the lookup table, today you can't. So now you can export it, make changes, and then re-import the lookup table and replace the existing one, right? So now you can edit your lookup tables with this release with the export functionality. We have also made some visualization improvements. So we are showing you more details like the classification rule details, which data element classifications are part of the entity, so on, from the catalog source configuration itself. So you don't need to go back and forth. Again, usability improvement. Now, beyond that, there's other few improvements. The first one, we have added export capability from the dashboard search widget. So until now, if you could only export from the search itself, right? So you could go to the search, make a search, and then say export. We added catalog source-based export in the November release. Now you will have an option of exporting from the search widget itself. This is going to be very similar to what you have from the search, But of course, the scope is defined by what's provided as part of the search criteria in the search widget itself. We have also made a few improvements on the data quality side of things. So the first one is now you can basically associate multiple output rules or exception rules with the rule occurrence in CDGC, right? So in Feb release, we allowed you to bring in exception, but only one port. And now you basically can select out of the multiple port, which port you want to use, right? Now this is available through UI as well as through bulk import. So, but the idea is if you have defined multi-output roles, you will be able to pick one port and use that as part of the data quality rule occurrence association. We have also added a preview and download options for rule occurrences created from our cloud data profiling as well. So there was some discrepancy between locally created rules and ones coming from the cloud profiling. And then on the quality aggregation side, we have now enabled that for geography as well as the project asset tag as well. A few improvements on the bulk import side. So from a reference data perspective, you will be able to upload the associations between glossary data element and the reference data through bulk import. It's an extension of the Ref 360 integration functionality. Similarly, on the data quality side of things, you will be able to provide an output port name if you are using a rule spec with multiple outputs as part of the bulk import. Similarly, now we are also have ordered option for automation enabling through the bulk import. So if you are creating rule templates, you can enable automation through the bulk import itself for selected rule templates as desired. And then on the ability to change the primary data element. So we have made one enhancement to that, which is you will now be able to change primary data elements for the rule occurrences if the rule occurrence itself has not been executed. And the new data element has to be from the same catalog source, right? So you cannot pick a data element from a completely different catalog source, but you will be able to update it if it is within the same catalog source, given the rule has never been executed so far. We have also brought in a number of grid customization options for you. So the first one is on the browse. So on the browse, glossary, browse system, data set, and so on, now you will be able to add additional columns, including a lot of the custom attributes. We have extended the filtering options to more things as well. And then the find capability also has been extended to additional stuff. Similarly, the grid enhancement also has been extended to the contains tab or the contains grid within the business and technical data set. Now, few of you have asked for showing technical descriptions as well as custom attributes. Now that's available as an option. So you can customize those grids now. And then again, find and sorting and other things also have been extended. And then the last one we have is the hierarchy tab on the glossaries itself. You can now basically add additional columns and customize the grid there as well. We have, as I said earlier, we have also introduced system level and catalog source level lineage. So now if you go to the system page, you will be able to just see a high system level lineage itself. Similarly, if you just want to see a catalog source level lineage, where you basically hide all the data sets and data elements underneath, you will be able to visualize that at a very, very high level. That was a view of a system lineage here. We have also added a couple of new relationships. So process and project asset types can now be linked to technical data sets and data elements similar to what we have for the policy asset. Default relationship is related to, but you can always configure it. Now we have also introduced the compact mode, which gives an option for the user to concise the view, right? So basically a lot of the white space kind of goes down. Now this is going to be controlled by the users themselves and available from the settings, so user can switch between standard and compact mode as required. Here's a high-level view of how standard mode looks on the left and the compact mode looks on the right, right? So as you can see a lot more density of information on the screens with the compact mode. Also added APIs for the audit history, so you will be able to export those as well. In terms of the customer-driven upgrade, we have extended that now so that you can schedule your upgrade. So once the upgrade is available, you will be able to say, upgrade on so and so date. Even in case of a forced upgrade, we will not automatically start the upgrade. We will schedule it, and you have one option to change it to over a couple of days and so on. But the idea is you have now more flexibility in terms of scheduling when the upgrade really happens. And then on the discovery classification PAM, we have extended support to IBM Netezza as well as SAP S/4HANA. And then now let's talk about the scanners. So as I said earlier, we have added support for the Reference 360 scanner. We have also added support for Informatica developers, so you can bring in a number of assets from there. On the Microsoft Azure Synapse Analytics, both Synapse pipelines as well as notebooks have been added. Tableau Cloud support has been added, as well as SAP SuccessFactors. And then we have also added accelerator support for IBM mainframes. And in terms of the enhancements to the scanners for Tableau and Azure SQL Server, we have made some authentication improvements there with some additional filtering available on the Tableau side of things. We have also brought in improvements on additional asset types for OBIE, SAP HANA, and then some improvements on Google Looker as well as Snowflake. Incremental scanning has been added for a few resources here: Microsoft Azure Blob Storage, Oracle, SAP ERP, and SAP BW and B4 for HANA. And then in terms of usability, we from a MCC filtering configuration, we have added support for a number of sources as well. With that said, thank you, and let me pass it on to Kate for covering Data Marketplace.
Thank you, Amrish. This is Kate Amory, Product Manager for Marketplace, to talk about what's new in Marketplace in the April release. The major feature we're focusing on is custom layout, which is available for 11 pages within the Marketplace, and also the custom help options, which I'll get into in a second. For the general custom layout pages, some of the things we can control are which tabs appear, what they're called, the order they appear in, even creating new ones from scratch. We can choose within those tabs what panels show up, what their positioning is and sizing, and some of their names. For attributes within those panels, we can choose which appear and which order they appear in, including bringing in custom fields and changing the order there. We can update any names of buttons and whether or not those buttons appear at all. We can choose which metrics should be shown and whether or if metrics panel is of interest at all. You can choose individual ones to hide. You will be able to put your own descriptive text on things like data assets, data elements, explaining what these things are right there on the page in your own words. You will also be able to control the grid columns that appear by default, hiding any that you find irrelevant and choosing the order that you think is most appropriate and suitable for your audience. You'll be able to decide whether carousels show up and how many tiles they have in each row. And on certain pages, there are additional things like on search, you will be able to decide which filters show up, what order they show up in, which ones are expanded by default, perhaps, to bring more focus to them. On the order checkout page, you could choose to actually show or hide optional fields and which kind of informational tiles appear at which stage of the order checkout process. Those are just some examples, and we'll see even more in the demo. In relation to custom help, we have these things that I call jumbo tooltips. I think they're called item tooltips actually in Marketplace now. The idea here is that they're bringing in additional information. So we have these for things like data assets, data collections, categories, data elements. And if you hover over the little I next to these things, you get a kind of preview of information related to them. Now, what's powerful here, particularly for governed data assets and data elements, is you can bring in information from Cloud Data Governance and Catalog. So in this example, this is a governed data element tooltip, and I can start looking at things like profiling and data quality and glossary links that have been set up on the CDGC side. What's new to this release is we can also bring in custom attributes. So before this, there was no way to see a kind of custom attribute that had been set up on a Snowflake column in CDGC and Marketplace. We can now bring that into the tooltip, so that's pretty powerful. In relation to the Guide Me, we can also make some edits here. So we have this Guide Me panel on the right-hand side, which you can see by clicking the little owl icon. It's designed to give you contextual help information as you move through the tool. We have a lot of out-of-the-box information, which you can choose to keep or hide as makes sense with your new layouts. And you can also add your own sections. So you can add company-specific information. This is a really powerful way to embed your own best practices and guidance to your users directly into the tool. The custom homepage is just worth calling out separately as another page where you can design custom layouts. We have out-of-the-box designs for all of the out-of-the-box roles, whether that's administrator, owner, or data marketplace user. Even though these are out of the box, you can of course customize them. The idea here is that we're having an action-driven homepage, which allows people to take the right and appropriate action in the marketplace based on who they are and what they're doing. We'll see more of that in the demo. The first persona I will take on is an administrator named Jane to show how to set up a custom layout. I will focus on data product as an example. Jane is creating this layout with a specific goal in mind. It will be assigned to business users, offering them a pared-back version of the interface so as not to overwhelm them with information. With this in mind, Jane chooses to keep tabs to a minimum, using the summary template as a jumping-off point instead of building the page from scratch. She hides irrelevant attributes to keep things simple, but brings in critical custom attributes and reorders the list in order of importance. Jane considers the other panels on the summary page. The order panel can be simplified by hiding the compare button and renaming the checkout button to order now. She could choose to hide a subset of metrics, but as she's going for minimalism, decides to hide the entire panel. Jane also hides data quality, adjusts the stakeholder panel to her preferences and preferred location, and hides the similar data panel. This is an extreme approach, but her priority is keeping content as light as possible. There are a few things missing that she feels her business users need to see. The contents of the data products. Rather than add more tabs, Jane chooses to add the data asset description, data asset, and data element panels directly onto the summary page. She can then input her own text to describe her company's vision of what a data asset is and how it should be utilized directly on the page. As the data asset and element panels represent tables, she must also choose which columns should appear in these. In keeping with her pared-back view, she keeps things very light, only showing 2 or 3 columns in each table. Users will still have the option to bring in more if they so wish, but this will be their initial view. When Jane goes to save the layout, she's warned that she needs to add a stakeholders tab, as the panel may not show all, so she does this to complete the layout. She can choose to preview her design before saving and publishing, and when happy that it looks exactly as she wants, Jane can publish this layout. Jane wants to ensure the Guide Me text is bespoke as well, aligned to the revised view for the business user, so creates a specific layout for this. By hiding irrelevant sections of the Guide Me panel, Jane ensures that her users will not be confused and at the same time clears some space to add Acme's view on data products and best practices. This is a powerful new element of custom layout, as it allows individual customers to put their own guidance directly into the tool, where previously only fixed text from Informatica could appear. Jane publishes her version of the Guide Me and moves on to the final data product related layout, the item's jumbo tooltip. Again, she's designing this for a business user, but is slightly less concerned about overwhelming them, as they will have actively sought out information, so she won't go quite as minimalist. Jane adds a couple of key custom fields, reordering them so they're in order of importance, and elects to save and publish her tooltip layout. Her final task is to make sure that these are the default views for marketplace users. Jane revisits each layout she has created and pulls it to the top of the list. This means that marketplace users will see this as their default setting. If there are multiple designs, as there are in this demo environment, the end user will be able to switch between different options relevant to their role and select their favorite. But Jane is in charge of the first version of the marketplace they will see. Now let's take a look at how a consumer will experience these changes. I've now logged in as Shrida, a business user who occasionally comes into the marketplace to order data. The first thing Shrida notices when he logs in is that the homepage is notably different. Jane has decided that the new action-driven homepage is more useful, so has set this up as the default for marketplace users, with a couple of minor tweaks of her own design. If Shrida preferred, he could choose to revert to the old homepage using the layout switcher in the top right corner, but he'd prefer to explore this new exciting design. The new homepage has widgets that Shrida can use to take action in the marketplace. In the top row alone, he can jump into a data search, see an overview of his orders, or click into the access records for the data he already has access to. The tiles below give metrics relevant to him and also act as links to these items, allowing him to jump in to see the details of his orders, accesses, and requests. Below this, there's welcome information set up by his company and a useful video to help him get started and more. In the same way that she set up the custom layouts for the data product page, Administrator Jane can choose to hide these widgets for this persona or add more as she prefers. There are about 40 to choose from, some more suited to users like Shrida, others for owners or administrators, detailing the tasks they should be taking action on. Shrida wants to browse different categories for data, so clicks into the category count, which takes him to an overview. Again, he's seeing the view that Jane has set up for him, a pared-back version of the category page with less information than he would have seen previously. He's interested in ordering the customer website interactions data product, so first clicks on the preview tooltip where he sees the version Jane has designed for him. Clicking into the data product itself, Shrida sees the two-tab view Jane has set up. Again, he has the option to revert to the default or any other custom view that's available to him based on his role and user group. Clicking into the default shows him just how much more information is available there, but he doesn't want to complicate things. He has everything he needs in the simpler view. Returning to the custom layout Jane created, he adds the guide me to get a little more context on next steps and sees there is some detailed advice on Acme's view of data product access. Once happy, Shrida elects to order now. Even the order process appears to have been simplified, and Shrida is thrilled to have moved through the marketplace so quickly and easily, with a lot of the noise he found irrelevant hidden away from him. Thank you very much for listening. I'll now hand over to Harold to talk about what is new in Cloud Data Access Management.
Thanks, Kate, for the introduction. I'm Harold Smith, Product Manager with Informatica. I'm going to talk about Cloud Data Access Management and what's new in the April 2025 release. As a reminder, Cloud Data Access Management available as part of CDGC as of the February 2025 release. This allows us to build logical, scalable, metadata-driven policies for data access controls and data protection right within the confines of the CDGC workspace. You can utilize all standard CDGC functions to search and find these assets, as well as work with notifications, dashboards, publication functions, and also leverage directly the discovery and classification capabilities, as well as the metadata such as terms, to build out policies in one place with multiple enforcement methods. Those methods include applying policies within CDI workloads, ability to push down data access controls to cloud data platforms such as Snowflake and Databricks, and the ability to protect orders and queries being made through the data marketplace. As of the April release, we have several new features that are available. We'll be talking about cell-level data de-identification and protection, data access control push down to Power BI, and public APIs for data access assets. So what are cell-level data de-identification and protection? Currently, we provide field-level support, basically attribute-level controls that allow you to protect a given column of data and do it in one specific way. It might be tokenization, it might be through a substitution mechanism or hashing, or even redacting the entire column. Cell-level data protections give us finer-grained rules that allow you to protect individual cells within a column, and do that based on user-specified conditions. So you can evaluate one or more attributes, maybe it's a country code, maybe it's a active status code, and be able to say, for those particular conditions, here's what I want to do, and do that in basically a process of identifying, one or multiple conditions, say what type of data protection you want to apply, and doing that then uniquely for that condition. This gives you the advantage of being able to really address some of the challenges of global privacy regulations, where you might have different requirements for one country versus another country, but that country code is part of your data. This capability will be available through the marketplace, on read or on query, and through the CDI enforcement methods, and really ensures that the right protections are applied to the right attributes at the right time for the right users. If you want to have a look a little deeper in terms of what this means, and if we, for example, we have a country code and we're looking at actually controlling how we're protecting data in a postal code field. So we could look at the country code field and say, if it happens to be USA, then for the postal code, I want to tokenize that data and transform the existing 5 characters into a similar format, but uniquely protected. Or we can also look at another country, something like Canada, and for it have a different unique characteristic. And this might be to truncate the postal code and simply look at the first 3 characters. Everything else is redacted after. Other countries, we might retain it or might redact it, but that's all within the control of the cell-level data de-identification. It all happens within the confines of the policy and rule building. We simply define the same criteria. There's nothing unique. It's all part of the same policy structure. Identify maybe your usage context or your glossary terms that are applicable, and then identify whether you want field level protection, cell level protection, or both. And you can do that all within one given rule. For the cell level identification, you're simply going to identify your initial condition, identify what fields you want to control. You may have multiple else if conditions that you can then build in and expand on, and then a final condition to say what happens to everything else. Now, the second core feature we're delivering is policy push down, which is basically delivering permission grants at the object level and doing it now to Power BI. So it's expanding on the available cloud data platforms that we can protect. Data access control rules utilize standard CDGC search queries, maximizes the metadata context, and helps us find relevant permissions for identified user groups that exist within Power BI. Now, the object level permissions that are going to be available are specifically for data sets and for workspaces. Workspaces happen to be where you put all your report content. And then we synchronize that to deliver changes or updates or new policies or additional information about other users that all fall within the identified criteria, and do that consistently for scale and ongoing change management. It simplifies the overall policy authoring and management experience as part of that process. Very straightforward. Again, to build these policies, you're simply developing rules, you're identifying the user groups, and again, these have to be user groups within Power BI. They identify what those are. And then for the access controls, we're simply identifying what set of data sets or workspaces we want to include, where is that information contained. Maybe it's at a schema level or the entire catalog source. Identify that source type as being Power BI and save that and publish that policy. Once it's published, we synchronize the push down of that to the Power BI source that's been identified. We do that on our ongoing scheduled basis. And you can simply go into the metadata command center, view the job, and see that the status has completed to complete that push down process. The third of the capabilities we're introducing in the April release is around public APIs for all the data access assets. This will allow you to retrieve, create, update data access management content through public APIs. That's through the CDGC API gateway, and really provides a standard mechanism to scale your work for offline creation and management of policy content, and allows you to integrate that with your own third-party tools, business processes. Maybe that's calling out to another process to actually do the control of publishing the particular assets, but gives you greater control over that overall governance experience. We will have APIs for all the standard data access management policies. That's the object, rule, row level, and cell or attribute level controls, as well as the data protections that you can apply in your policies and the precedence tiers for managing the order de-identification policies, as well as a API to actually publish those assets. For any given policy type, you can retrieve the list of all policies or an individual policy. You can create new policies. You can modify the existing policies. You can update specific rules within those particular policies, as well as deleting specific rules or the entire policy. All that's under your standard control, and it is subject to the metadata access control functionality as well. Authentication utilizes standard CDGC authentication via a JWT token. Standard API formats, it's a valid JSON content, standard response codes. All this will be documented in the API reference guide as well as the Informatica developer portal. That is some of the changes for the April release for Cloud Data Access Management. So let me now turn it over to Ricardo to talk about data quality. Thanks.
Thank you, Harold. My name is Ricardo Sobral. I'm part of the product management team, and I'm going to explain to you what is new in cloud data quality, profiling, and data observability. As part of the April 2025 in data observability, we are releasing a new alert management, and you notice that in terms of scalability, there is much more assets that you can observe. For address verification, we will expand consumption-based license for verifier for Azure and GCP pods as well. And we update the engine for the latest version, which internally we call 6.6, which is the same version as the other service called Data as a Service. For the duplicate, we updated the latest population files. You see a lot of details in the link. Once you download this PDF, you're going to see. We've been working on accessibility, and for exception tasks, in January, we started allowing to write exception data to a flat file connection. And in terms of versioning, we added support for GitLab SaaS version as a new type of versioning backend. As you probably already know, we have profiling in data quality, and we have profiling inside the catalog. So on the left side are the updates on the data profiling in data quality, where we certified the support for IAM roles in AWS S3. Also for the profile coverage updates, we now support Databricks external tables where the file formats are in Parquet and CSV. Before, we only supported Delta format. We also added support for SAP HANA using the IDMC connector, MariaDB and MySQL using IDMC MySQL connector. We also support now the varchar max, which is a data type in Microsoft SQL. Although we truncate to 255 characters, you at least can profile it. And for Google BigQuery, we added support for regional pod to resolve the DNS for Google Cloud Storage, which is very specific for the Saudi Arabia pods that we have. And we did performance improvements on the profiling task user interface. You'll notice up to 70 or sometimes 80% faster UI response. For profiling inside the catalog, you'll give you more details on the coverage pan in the next slides, but also we are supporting rules with the exception output in rule occurrences. We align the profiling filters to match the filters on the scanner because they were a little different, and also we are supporting now wildcarding filters. Also, we added support for IAM roles in AWS sources for advanced runtime. In data observability, we now increase the number of data elements up to 250,000, and the number of historical data points we increased from 5 to 10. And we did some minor UI changes based on feedback by creating some groups for the metrics. And also, you'll notice we renamed the data observability widget in the asset overview page from open events to data observability events. In metadata command center, we now limit the number of events created for our source, where it's the same event. So the idea here is to do some span management. So the default value is 1,000, but can be configured to values between 10 and 20,000. And if the number of events exceeds the number, a new typed event is created with the message saying that the number of anomalies detected is greater than the one configured. And they make a notification is also sent for this new type of event. We continue to work in data observability, and now we are working on observability for data integration pipelines and freshness. So I hope I can talk about it with you pretty soon. In terms of exception management, now we allow to write the exception data into a flat file type of connection. Some users don't want to store the exception data in IDMC. Is a pure security angle here. So now we allow you to write to a flat file target connection in a file that is in comma delimited format. The benefits of doing this route is that exception data never leaves your agent and it stays behind your firewall and never comes to IDMC servers. Virtually, there is no limit on the number of rows, and it's an open and simple format where you can use a simple CDI mapping if you need to move this data to a storage of your preference. So here is a quick comparison between the two types of storage. In the IDMC exception store, there is a limit of 20,000 rows per run, while in flat file, there is unlimited number of rows. You have to create a flat file type of connection in the administrator, and as long as the agent that is used to run the exception task has access to this flat file, the file is going to be written to this target. So here is an example of the UI. You see at the bottom, when I create a new exception task, there are two options, Informatica Cloud and local storage. And here we are going to show all flat file connections that is available in your org. Now let's talk about the updates on the verifier that performs address verification in batch mode. Back in November, we added the support of address verification consuming IPUs, meaning in a consumption-based license, but it was only for orgs in AWS. With this release, also pods that are in GCP or in Azure are also supported. With that, you can use the verifier asset inside data integration mappings, which is available since 2020, but you don't have to acquire a new license. You just consume the pool of IPUs that you have. The experience remains the same. So you create the verifier asset using the data quality, and then you use the verifier transformation in Cloud Mapping Designer. We are working to make real-time checks also available in IPU, but it's not available as of now. This still requires a license for the DAS service. And if you use address verification in the context of master data management of Informatica, you will still continue to require a license for address data. If you're a customer that already has a license of address verification data, the engine is smart enough and will continue to use your license until expiration. And then after expiration, there is no disruption. We automatically turn into the consumption and we will consume the IPU pools. And if you don't have that address data license, we automatically goes and consume the IPUs that you have available. So some other smaller updates in cloud data quality. One is called metering for custom tags. If you wanted to charge back your different departments, one way of doing it for all mappings that run data quality or profiling is to create metering tags. These tags can be created in the administration page. This feature is only available for customers that are in IPU-based license. So once you tag it and you run the jobs, you are able to then look into the tags, and then you can charge back different departments or, depending on the tag, whatever distribution you wanted to do. For the rule specification, we did a smaller improvement on the output of the test. So here you have a rule specification. And if the output of the rule is a blank, we will continue to show as a blank value, so you see nothing here. But if the output is null, now you see the null being presented as the output. So it helps the user to know and differentiate between blanks and nulls. Now in data profiling that you use when you go to the chiclet data profiling, there we added 3 new sources, MySQL and MariaDB. Both use the MySQL IDMC connector, and we also added SAP HANA. This is also available in source applets. Now let's go profiling in Cloud Data Governance and Catalog. In terms of PAM, now added CDS views in SAP HANA, and also a big ticket item is support for XML files on Amazon S3, Azure ADLS Gen 2, and local file system. Some smaller features is still important. In Databricks, we support now profiling of multiple databases, or in other words, catalogs using one single connection. Before, you had to create one connection per catalog. We also now support Secret Vault and external tables where the underlying files are in Parquet and CSV format. Before, we only supported Delta format. For Google BigQuery, we enhanced the random and percentage, which is already supported, but there is a feature in GBQ, which is, although is still in preview, and it's called table space, which is much more cost effective. And for site-based ISE using JDBC, we made enhancements to support query filter. That's all for cloud data quality, data profiling, and observability. Now we are gonna open to answer some of the questions that came through Q&A session.
Hello, everyone. Hope you found this useful.
Hello, Amarish.
Hey. So the first question, Ricardo, for you: can users download exception data for DQ rule scorecards from CDGC level?
Yeah, as of now, from CDGC level, you were able to download in April the data preview 100 rows, but it's not the exception data yet. We are working on the similar solution that we have for exception management in DQ to be integrated with CDGC. As of now, I know we are not supposed to tell dates, but we are planning for end of this year. Safe harbor applies.
Okay, thanks, Ricardo. The next question is also for you. Are the metering tags just for CDQ?
No, it's not only for CDQ, so it's mappings in general. I'm not certain about the other objects like mass ingestion yet. You have to check. I only cover on the DQ side, but as of now, profiling task, mappings, being DI mappings or DQ mappings, they will work. I'll get back to you with the other assets, okay?
Thank you. Now, I know a couple of you said the slides that you are downloading has only 5 slides in it. Again, that's some challenge from the vendor side, so we're working on it, and we should be able to get those slides to you later. The next question was, I don't see any notification to update the April release for CDGC and MCC. And that's right? Because the deployment for CDGC and MCC will begin on 27th April. And it'll goes on for 4 or 5 days during that week, depending on which pod you are on. So you will be able to upgrade after that, not before that. Some of the other IDMC services have already been updated. And you can get the status from the Informatica webpage for when it gets updated. Okay. What else was there?
So Kate,
Yes,
can we
can you hear me?
customize each product, data product in CDMP?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Kate. We can hear you, Kate.
I'm sorry, I seem to have lost the ability to hear you, so I'm gonna go back on mute.
Okay, so there were a few other questions. When will we be able to run DQ rule as web service, Ricardo?
Yeah, so the current plan is for July. Again, Safe Harbor applies, but the team is full on working on it. So in July, you'll be able to take rules and expose as web service and use the IDMC API Center as the front end, which is gonna receive the requests and return the response.
There was a question on does the clear generated descriptions work for technical metadata? So it works for some technical metadata, like technical data sets, which includes tables, views, and so on, as well as data elements. But it does not work for things such as schema or database, right? So all types of technical data sets, all types of technical data elements as will be available, but not for the other technical assets for now.
And does it generate non-English text as well?
For now, it's English only. Other languages on the roadmap.
And there is a question here. Where this generation comes from? Do you send the data outside of IDMC?
We don't, right? So we have created our own model. We have trained with a lot of industry standards and public information. And so, yes, these models are deployed in each of your pods. And so the data doesn't go anywhere.
Kate, do you hear us?
I can hear you now. I don't know how long it will last.
Okay. So for your homepage in CDMP, can you add your own designs?
Yes, absolutely. So we have given you out of the box a empty state and a populated state for each of the out of the box marketplace roles. But you can clone these and you can edit them. There are about 40 widgets that you can choose from. So you can really build whatever you want for your different users and personas in the marketplace.
Here.
Ricardo, question for you. Is there a plan to deliver data observability for pipelines?
Yes, we are working on it. First, we will start with our own data integration pipelines. So we are going to monitor first. We are going to start with freshness and volume, and then track how often the job runs, if it doesn't run, when it was supposed to run, and notify the user. So yes, it's coming in. The release is still planned for this year.
Perfect. There's also a question on the scheduled upgrades. So can you schedule different times for dev UAT prod? Absolutely. So when you do go into each of those instances, you will be able to schedule and pick schedules within a 6-week window based on your preference, right? In terms of what order you want to perform.
Kate,
Okay.
Can you control the presentation of custom fields in Marketplace?
Yes, you can. So one of our key requirements was to allow our users to intermingle the custom fields with the out-of-the-box fields, because obviously our customers don't think of them as custom. They're just the key fields that they need. So whether that's on the data collection page, the order page, you choose their placement and what appears to who.
And Amrish, there is a question about the workflow experience and what metric will burn in terms of, is it going to burn IPUs? What's going to happen there?
It will burn IPUs. Now this will be announced as part of the May update, so we'll stay tuned for that. Okay. So Ricardo, there's a question on when sampling will be supported for SAB tables in CDGC profiling.
No, we don't have plans to support sampling just because the connector and so we go through you become a little technical here, but we go through the ABAP layer, right? And the ABAP doesn't have ability to provide sampling. We have some customers that said, well, if at least you can put the first n rows, it's okay, it's not ideal. So we are planning to add the first rows, but sampling is not provided by SAP. So you see sampling in some of the sources like Snowflake and Redshift, and this is because those sources support sampling. Right? We don't produce and we don't want to store your data to produce sampling. So only when the source supports.
Perfect. And that does put us over time. So anyway, thank you all. Thank you all for joining. This will be available from the Informatica webpage as a recording, in case you want to refer it again. And slides, as I mentioned earlier, something we are looking into, and we'll get back to you. Thank you all. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.